Hey, Dave.
Hi, Marilyn.
Or as my sister's telephone says, Marilyn. It says on her phone, Marilyn is calling.
Oh, Marilyn. Who's she?
Marilyn. I don't know, some girl, some chick.
So you got two names. You got Mary and you got Lynn. Is that right? Like Marilyn.
That is right. That is right, Dave.
Is that a bit greedy to have two names?
I always knew you could put two and two together. That's when I knew that we should do a podcast together.
Oh my God, it's all about math.
Oh my God, you have the clock. I love it.
Oh yeah. By the way, there's a grandfather clock behind me.
Oh my God.
So it's you, me, and the grandfather clock.
Let's just do the whole episode on that clock. Okay, no, but seriously, we're gonna lose the few listeners we have if we don't go into some type of discussion.
Hang on a sec, Marilyn. We have to honor the present moment, right? It's all about living in the present. Like, didn't someone say that once? Sure, someone said.
Jesus, Buddha, Eckhart Tolle, Kim Kardashian, who else? Honey Boo Boo. They all said that. Be present in the moment.
I thought it was only Kim Kardashian who said that. and the cat here, the cat walking around here. That's another topic, cats. No, I was thinking, because since the clock struck quarter hour, does that mean we need to talk about time?
You really want to go there, huh? Because we have many topics here.
Well, I don't know. It's a possibility.
So,
where do you get the topics from, Marilyn? Can you explain?
So you and I have a chat that we've had for a while, and when we started talking about doing the podcast, we talked about coming up with topics, yeah? So one day I would come up with a few ideas and I'd post them in the chat, and then you would add on one or two things, and this list kept going on and on for months. And I think one day we said, hey, what if we actually did the podcast? Remember?
Yeah. Instead of get ready for the podcast.
Instead of getting ready for the podcast. So that was a big step for us. That was one big step for mankind.
Is it like, what's that word? Is it like procrastination? Is it
laziness, like procrastination, Marilyn being busy all the time, all that stuff.
Dave being asleep. But then we completely changed it after that, from that list.
We did, in a way. Well, what we started doing is we started our first few episodes, I think, going by some of the quote-unquote topics. And then we thought, do you remember? We actually recorded many episodes we never edited. We just have them.
Don't tell people that. They'll say, what was on? They'll say, what was on those episodes?
So the point is that we started a few, and then we just kept going down so many rabbit holes. We're like, oh my God, who is going to listen to this? But I think the point is that we were trying to structure it a little bit too much. And we said, this doesn't feel very much like us. This doesn't feel very authentic. And so we thought, why don't we just talk? Why don't we just have like the conversations that we're used to having? We could just come up with a topic, but then we could just let loose and go in any direction we want while we're talking. And that's what we started doing.
Yeah, because actually we often say to each other, like almost every time you talk. So when we have a chat, we actually say, this could have been a podcast.
I don't even know what that means anymore. Everybody thinks all their conversations are podcast worthy, but I guess the point is that we just thought, why not share this? Why not post it publicly so people can hear our ridiculousness publicly? I think it's important to share.
Well, like this morning, I went to the organic outdoor market.
Tell me more.
It's just in a very small park. There are not many stalls. And as we were walking through, there was this woman giving away chocolate brownies.
Sounds like my kind of friend.
It's like marketing 101. That's incredible. And so we had to stop for the chocolate brownie. And it had, like some with chocolate brownie, some are to, Zoom's just sent me a message.
That was me.
Oh, shit. I didn't realize. Can you do it again? No, accept it this time.
Oh my God, wait a minute. Did you reject my request for you to record this?
Well, it didn't say Marilyn. It said Zoom.
What an ass. Oh my God.
Okay.
Do you guys understand now why we're doing a podcast together?
Does that mean we're not in sync? I thought we were in sync. So anyway, that the chocolate brownies were an enticement to join Pilates classes.
No way. You're joking.
Yeah, and there were these three young women, like in their little t-shirts, and then their really tight black stretch pants.
Wow, so specific.
And one of them, I tell you not, she was on the Pilates machine, and I had to look away because she kept on opening her legs and doing all these exercises and talking to us at the same time. It was like, should I be looking in her direction or what?
Oh my God.
I mean, like...
That's just not cool. Wait. Can I get a picture? Can I just get a visual here? Brownies. Were they good, by the way?
The brownies were amazing.
Okay. Amazing brownies. A girl trying to get you to sign up to Pilates while she's on the machine, exposing herself.
No, she didn't expose anything. It's just like, it was... She was not exposed.
Well, the movements.
Yeah.
The movements were enticing. Can we, with the skin tight pants? Oh boy.
But I don't think it was anything. I don't think it was sort of. She was just someone who's, I think, was just very relaxed in her body and didn't mind who was looking at her butt or whatever. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I had to look away a couple of times. It was too much. So, anyway, after that, I mean, it's very interesting going to this market. There's a lot there because you get the whole world there. There's a Lebanese stall, there's a Thai stall, there's a lady from southern India selling curry, pre-made curry. And I was talking to her because I keep on bumping into her at these markets. And she says, like, wow, you get around. Where do you live? I keep on seeing you in different places. And I told her why I visit these certain places, and she said, "Wow, that's quite a good life. You're very lucky you go to these places, like." And I said, "Well, look at you. You're in this lovely area, this lovely park, and the sky's blue, and we had this like mutual husband life great moment." And then she said, "What are you doing today?" And I said, I have a friend in Los Angeles, and we're going to do a podcast together." And she said, "Oh, so what, you're flying there?" And I said, no. I record it usually in my caravan.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's when we get to 20 subscribers or 30. We're up to 22 now. God, things are going wild. Here's the thing. She said, "Oh, what's it called?" I said, "New Humans in Training." She immediately grabbed her Spotify, looked it up, found it. And I said to her, "If you listen to it, yeah, it'd be great if you can put a comment or something." And she said, no, it's not if I listen to it. I am listening to this, she said. Like,
wow. Well, thank you.
So we have a new subscriber.
Let's see if she gets to this episode.
From southern India, but, in Australia selling curry.
Thank you, new subscriber. Appreciate you. And we love curry, by the way. Oh my God, I was eating curry last night actually at a Thai place, and I'm sitting at a window. That's the window. On the other side of the window is the street with a sidewalk, yeah? And the restaurant right on the other side of the glass window has a few tables out there. And I'm starting to eat my food, and I'm reading a book, and I look up and I see a guy who's sitting at the table who's right on the other side of the glass, right at my eye level. And I look over at him, and he's drinking out of this flask, and he's yelling at people in the street. And I can't tell if he's yelling at people in the street because he's trying to warn them about something or if he's actually yelling at them. I couldn't tell. So I would look up once in a while and just see him. And I see him finish his flask and then pull out a huge bottle of Shivas, which I think it might be whiskey. So a really large bottle. And he proceeds to refill his flask. And I'm like, wow, this could go so many different directions right now.
And it involves curry.
Well, the curry I was eating. But
I always thought he's not eating the curry.
I'm eating the curry, Dave. I'm eating the curry.
Oh, you're eating the curry.
He's drinking the Shivas.
I got mixed up there.
and screaming at people in the street who drive by. And I just kept thinking how interesting life is because, I mean, I don't want to make any presumptions, but the guy had a little bit of a look on him that he could have been carrying a gun. Like, he had that look. He just had that look. I won't even describe what he was. It wasn't even necessarily what he was wearing. There was something about the look in his eye that was like, I carry a piece on me. And so I thought to myself, he's refilling his flask. He's already pretty fucked up. And I thought, life is just so interesting because this guy could just decide. Someone could look at him the wrong way, someone from inside the restaurant, and he decides to come in, and he decides to mess with people, or just maybe he's angry, maybe he's had a really bad day, maybe he just wants to blow off some steam. Maybe the waiter goes up to him and says, hey, if you're not ordering, you can't sit at this table, and that triggers him. Who knows, But I thought, it's just so interesting how we just never know. You don't know where you're going to be in a situation that you've never been in before. And I just thought to myself, I was just having this thought in my mind, like, oh, I wonder how I would respond to a situation that I've never been in, And so there was like a curiosity in me. I'm like, instead of feeling fearful about what he might do, which there was something in me that was a little bit apprehensive, of course. But then I became just very curious and like having feelings of, I wonder what his day's been like. I wonder what his life is like. And yeah, my thoughts completely changed about him. It was interesting to just go through the motions of that. So I don't know where that story just came from, us talking about curry, but that's what happened last night.
Wow, so you weren't fearful then? I
was curious. I was, at first, I would say not fearful, but I was apprehensive and on guard. I was on guard because he was making a lot of sudden movements and then yelling at people, and he would look up at me once in a while and catch my glance, and then So I thought, wow, this could really go any which way right now. And then as the time was going on and I was eating, I said, wait a minute, why don't I just look at the situation differently? Why don't I just decide to look at it differently? And I did. And I was able to relax during the rest of eating my meal and reading my book. And then at some point I looked up and he wasn't there anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, like, when you changed your thinking, I was wondering if there was an impact on him. Because I guess it's no kind of coincidence you were sitting next to this guy. You're like, if things are arranged in some way in our lives, as we talk about endlessly. So it's interesting that he left after you disengaged from maybe any fear or apprehension and just looked at it in a completely fresh light, in a way, like without assumptions.
I tried to change my mind. I think that's what I was doing. I was aware of where my mind was going, and I then became aware that I wanted to move my mind to another angle of that situation. Because I just thought, if something happens, let it happen. It's okay, And the interesting thing is when I left the restaurant and started walking, I said, okay, I'm going to walk this food off. So I'm going to walk home. It was a good 15 blocks to get back home. Or, yeah, something like that. And then as soon as I walk out of the restaurant, there's a homeless guy on the corner across the street who's yelling at the top of his lungs. His pants are falling down to his ankles. And he's just completely belligerent. And I'm thinking, okay. And then to my left, so that was across the street to my right, and then to my left, another homeless guy came, and he was yelling also. So it was really intense, the energy on that corner that I was on. And I thought, okay, I can walk through this and kind of just see what happens. Or I can take an e-bike and e-bike home. And I thought, you know what? You don't have to push it that much. You can go beyond your comfort zone, but, don't be reckless either. Because if these guys aren't feeling too stable right now and you happen to be in the way, who knows what'll happen. So I did get the little e-bike thing and I went home that way instead of walking by these two guys. Because I was alone, it was really dark outside. There were no street lights. So it's interesting. So I didn't want to be too extreme either, one way or the other. Kind of just testing the waters.
Yeah, it's so fascinating what you're saying. Because it's almost like wherever we are these days, whether I'm living in the countryside where I stay quite a lot, whether I'm visiting the city, which I am now, there are always people who you could say they have some mental health difficulty around us. And how to interact or how to engage or what to do, whether to walk past or... Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, but then also how we categorize people as having a mental health issue and what that means. It may be that they're just communicating in a way that we're not used to, or we it's like they're still communicating in there. Maybe they're shouting or they seem to be talking to no one but to everyone or something. It's hard to work out. So I try to think sometimes that they're talking to someone that we can't see, maybe, or someone like that. Like we just don't know exactly what's going on. And it might be obvious to you that people overseas observe all the news about gun control and things like that in America. I think some police forces, for instance, don't even carry guns. I don't think the British police force carry guns. The Australian police force carry guns, but I don't think the British does. So they have a different mentality, I guess, or a different society. But is it quite normal for people in the US to carry a gun or not?
I think a lot more people are carrying guns than we know. That I think for sure, because it is so easy to buy a gun in the US. It's just so easy. Well, not only in a store, but on the black market. They're just, you can buy them easily. And that's why every time there's a school shooting and then they find out that, the gun, the person who committed the crime bought the gun at a shop just a few days before, a few weeks before, and there was almost no background check done on them and all that. So let's just say it's easy. And so, it's one thing to be a very level-headed person carrying a gun, because, I guess we would assume that the only reason that person would ever use it would be if they got into a very sticky situation and were defending their life, for example. But for someone who's not very stable or who's just going through a lot of difficulties and having, experiencing a lot of emotions and doesn't have a good support system, why wouldn't they use it? you know, to be honest. If you're not stable, life is really, really scary and difficult sometimes. And if you don't have a support system, and you don't know how to express your feelings, and you don't know how to handle them or deal with them, then, you know, I'm not going to say, I'm not condoning in any way, shape, or form people who commit crimes, but a lot of crimes that people commit, if you look at their life situation, you know, you can kind of piece things together and understand why they felt no other way to let out their emotions. It's yeah, I think it's a very complex situation when it comes to that, because it has to do with survival also, you know. People, I guess a lot of people who carry guns, they are protecting their life, but if you think about it, if you are, you know, carrying a weapon or needing to buy a weapon to protect yourself from another, that's the kind of mindset that you kind of carry in your daily life and everything else that you do as well. That mind of separation, in a way. Right? What do you think? What do you think? I didn't mean to say right, but how do you see it?
Well, I'm thinking that, I mean, like, I got a bit of experience because 20 years ago I was working as a psychotherapist in a social work agency in Australia, and one day I had to go to the local probation office, you know, for the people who'd come out of jail. I don't know why I went there, and I started talking to one of the people working there, and I found out that at that stage, like 20 years ago, there was no counselling for these guys when they came out of jail. And I thought, and the person was saying, it'd be really good if they could get some counselling to sort of adjust to life out of jail or whatever. So I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Because I was working in there was this thing in Australia called the men's violence sort of movement or something, to try and help men who were, you know, all they knew was, like, as you say, to solve things was to use violence when they get emotional. So what he was trying to help them come up with other ways, in a way, of expressing themselves without being violent. So I went back to the agency and I talked to the boss, and the boss said, yeah, like, let's offer them, you know, 6 sessions or something, and we'll get the government to support it, just to help them readjust. And so for a while we had these ex-criminals coming to us, and I was very naive. I didn't know anything much about crime or the police system or jails and things, but what we found out is that most of these people were either they were making drugs, or they were gangsters, or they were both. So they were actually quite hardened criminals. And when you say you didn't know when this guy was carrying a gun, that was what it was like for us. We never searched these guys when they came, because we wanted them to trust us, you know. So we never searched them. But because they were gangsters, as they explained to us, like, to survive, you have to be able to protect yourself at all times. You don't know when you're going to get shot at or whatever. And the two, maybe there were many stories where there's many things happened, but the two that come to mind now, if I can share them, one was a guy who was like a gangster getting old, you know, older, and his body wasn't so good, and he was out on parole, I think, and he'd been caught with, like, explosives and guns in the trunk of his car or something. He was going to go, you know, he's going to go to jail again, you know. And so he was probably 50 or 55, and his body was a mess, you know. And Yeah, like one day he actually bought a doll, like a kid's doll, a doll, D-O-double-L, like a kid's doll. And like, I didn't know what he was doing, and because he brought a doll because he was so violent, he wasn't allowed to see his children. And one of his children was like a young girl, about 6 years old. That was the subject of the session, about the fact he couldn't see his daughter because of what he'd done. And I remember some other guy, he was put into jail because he'd been in a gunfight out in the street, and the people he'd been shooting with, his enemies, they hadn't dogged him in because that's the code. But he'd been done for endangering, public life because there were bullets flying around. So he'd gone to jail for that for like 5 or 7 years or something. So when he came out, he basically said, like, I can't change because I'll be dead. I got to, if I walk the streets in this neighborhood, I've got to have a gun and I've got to protect myself. If someone shoots at me, I'm going to shoot back. So it's like this. And the public safety thing didn't seem to matter so much to him. But I remember talking to him about, it wasn't really, sometimes you want to get somewhere with counselling, like you want to help someone understand something or change their attitude. And I remember I got to about 5 sessions out of 6 with this guy, and he wasn't changing. He was like, I just got to continue my life the same way. If I go to jail again, I go to jail again. But, I'm not going to not do this sort of thing. So I was very deliberate, actually, and probably a bit aggressive. I turned the subject from that to his children. And he had a son. I think he had about a 12-year-old son or something.
Besides the 6-year-old daughter, you mean?
Different person. This is a different person.
Different person, okay.
Yeah. He had a 12-year-old son or something, or 14-year-old son. And I said to him, look, I asked him a very obvious question. It's a little bit mean and harsh, but it's an obvious question. I said, so do you want your son to grow up like you?
What is it about this story that's making you feel so emotional? Does it relate to something in your family or your life?
I don't think so, because my family, well, it could be. I think what touches me is like, basically when I asked this question, the guy, I think as I remember, he broke down, he just like was devastated, right, to try and even answer that question.
Yeah.
He was just like, and the answer was no. Then we just talked about what it means to be a father, what it means to set an example, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, like, it's hard for him. Like, what does he do? He's got to go live somewhere completely different, start a new life or whatever. I don't know. It's not easier. It's not easy as well. It's like once you start on that road, like karma is chasing you the whole time. People that want to get back at you and all that sort of stuff. But I think what touches me is the fact that in both these examples, in a way, you could say, well, it's about their own families, but still it's about their love for their children. It's like these guys, they still have some form of sentimental love.
Of course.
It's like maybe as a friend or anyone, like we can help people if we can help them search for it, to find it inside them.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think I was even talking to someone today at work for a few moments. I don't know her too well, but we get along really well when we see each other. And she was just explaining to me how she felt that her heart was very closed off. She was wearing these bracelets, and she's like, yeah, I made these bracelets, and then I found out that these stones are actually good for helping the heart to open. And she says, yeah, because I know I have a hard time with that because of a lot of trauma and things that happened when I was younger. And it was like she had that understanding of herself, of how much she still was dealing with things from her childhood, but she just said, I don't know how to do it. I just don't know how to open up. And yeah. And so we had a short conversation. We were right in the middle of work. We were waiting for the kids to arrive for at the observatory to visit the building. And so, yeah, we couldn't really talk further. But, a lot of humans are still holding on to a lot of trauma from childhood. And just like she said, don't have the tools or the way to work through those things. And then what we talked about with her this morning was that we were saying that how we're in such survival mode all the time. We need to pay our bills. We need to get things done. We need to do things with family. And so you have all these demands that are on you for survival, quote unquote, to survive. And so it's like, when do you have time to really look at those things? To really look at those hurts and pains and painful memories and start to work through them. If you're in survival mode, how do you even do that?
Correct. That's interesting you say that. I can relate to it because I was like that for years. So anxious. Like, survival can take many things. It can be, getting your career progressing at work. You feel like surviving, like if I'm not progressing, then I'm not surviving, or something like that, or all sorts of things, or how we are in our families could feel like survival, or in our relationships and things like that. I used to have a lot of anxiety about supporting the family. I basically got dismissed from 4 jobs in my sort of business career before I changed track to being a therapist. I mean, it was like done politely, but when I look back on it, it was like I was asked to leave because I wasn't getting on, with people around me. So I lived with that anxiety about survival. But it's interesting you say that, because in a way, the need for survival is like, I guess it's linked to fear, isn't it? So we fear we're not going to survive in some way. So it's dealing with our fears. And then, if you think, you're going to resonate with things. So if we have the fear of survival, we're going to attract, stuff that's going to make it hard for us to survive, It's almost like a physical law, in a way. So I'm just trying to think, how a lot of our lives are just linked to how do we deal with our fears, and it's amazing what you're saying, because you're saying, like, if we're stuck in this survival thing, it's so loopy, looping all the time.
Yeah.
So how do you jump out of that and start to deal with your fears? It might be, I don't know, I mean, we could think of our own cases, how we started to deal with our fears, because I seem to have a lot, hugely less fear now in my life.
Yeah.
But I even feel that even someone giving you hope can reduce the fear. Because actually I was thinking the other day, we were talking in the last podcast how people like to talk to you, for instance. And I was thinking, if you tell your story and how you reduced some of your pains and strong emotions and things, I was thinking afterwards, like, you're giving people hope. Like, when we can give that to people, we can give them some sort of hope. I've even had a friend, we both know, for a friend of ours, who a guy told me that because I told him that I had reduced my anger a lot, he said it really gave him hope that he could reduce his, because it was very strong for him. And just saying a very simple thing to him just said, like, that gives me hope. So
It is.
yeah, I guess I'm just...
Yeah. It is hopeful to hear that someone's been able to get to the other side of something that we still don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. I mean...
Good expression.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's definitely... I know hope has been something that's carried me through a lot of very, very difficult situations. It was some kind of hope. If someone gave me hope by telling me that they had gotten better, or, told me I was going to get through this, or, yeah, there were a lot of people at a lot of different times in my life that gave me hope by giving me some different angles or giving me some possible ways to understand what I was going through. Yeah, it definitely was very impactful and useful.
We're quite heavy today, aren't we?
Well, yeah, we started super light. We just went, I think we went from, fireworks to down in the dungeon. Or I don't know how you could call it, but...
If it wasn't for your beehive hairstyle today,
Mm-hmm.
which we definitely have to show the listeners about your hair.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting how some people are drawn to certain things in life because of, maybe our karma, our past, the things that happened in our past lives that, kind of set the stage for us to go through a lot of difficulty in this lifetime in the beginning of our life up until middle age, and then we find something that starts to awaken something in us, and we start to follow it, and it teaches us something about ourselves, and then we learn something else, and then we're drawn to something else. And it's like, it's interesting to see how every person is led and drawn to different things in life that are part of their path, that are part of what they are meant to experience and learn from. And there's no good or bad, right or wrong. At a certain age, you should know better, because of everything that you've learned in your life, or because you're a healer, or because you're a psychologist, you should know better. Honestly, I don't even believe that anymore, because we're just all following different ways that are ultimately helping us to find ourselves, to find our essence, our nature, what we are. The essence of us, what we are before we incarnated into this personality that we are today. And I mean, that might sound way out there for some people who are listening to this, but I think all of us feel that there is an essence in us. And then there's the personality that we become. And
is that like the soul or something?
Yeah, it could be the soul. It could be what some people call the soul. And the personality is the one that is in survival mode all the time, that does certain things to protect itself, that makes comparisons with others, that feels separate from others, that needs to achieve, to feel its existence, that needs to be purposeful or successful or have a meaningful life because it needs to accomplish something on some level while it's here. I feel like all that is personality. It's all personality. And then there's the essence of us, the soul, that's like, I just feel so peaceful when I'm sitting somewhere in nature just looking at a bird, or listening to the wind, or having my feet in the grass. That's our soul. Our soul connects with that because it has no need for anything. It's just happy being.
Yeah. It's amazing you're saying that, because I sometimes when I sometimes in the afternoon, because I'm retired, so I'm not working, and sometimes in the afternoon I'll hop on the bed and have a little like nap, because I'm tired, and it doesn't last long, like maybe half an hour, but I'm usually never alone in this nap, because a little pussycat will jump on the bed after me. I'll get on first, and then the pussycat will come, and then the pussycat loves to sit on top of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lying on my back, and it sits on the top, and often it'll be on my chest, and it does this thing, like through my shirt, it'll go backwards and forwards like it's massaging me, but it's got these things called claws, which so I try and stay with it, but sometimes I do have to sort of push her away a little bit. But she goes back and forwards with this, and recently I've been thinking, wow, I'm apparently a human, and this being is apparently a cat, and we're having a really wonderful relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that relationship is really important. It's like, maybe it's fantastic that a cat and a human can have such a wonderful relationship. It feels very close, and the cat seems to be in tune, it seems to be able to communicate what its needs are and things like that. And the more I pay attention to it, the more I feel there's more to discover in it. So it's like, when you think about all the things you were saying about, the things people think they need to do in life, maybe being this cat is really important. That's what I feel anyway. And otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. It's happening. Yeah. So it's interesting to shift value we put on things. So now I've shifted my value, so now I put a value on this relationship with the cat. Where the funny thing is, like years ago, like when my kids were young and they had cats, I was scared of cats, and I never got on with cats.
Yeah.
I would keep away from them.
Okay.
I felt I had terrible karma with cats. But now I have this wonderful karma with cats normally.
Yeah.
And part of it's just being patient, just waiting, letting them be the ones who come forward, letting them if I come into someone's house who's got a cat, I'm very what's the expression? I sort of hang back.
Yeah.
And try and get in tune with it, When before I would have been just walked in, and just, oh, there's a cat, and not paid it any attention or any importance at all, really. So it's just amazing how you can experience life. Even as you say, with birds, you go to a park and you can have a wonderful time with birds.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them. I mean, like, birds are like usually everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention.
It's incredible. If you're paying attention.
If you're paying attention.
Like, yeah. That's a very good thing to say, because I know before I didn't notice them because I wasn't.
Yeah.
My focus was, as you say, survival.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing how our relationship with life can be really different, even by just the way we interact and treat other beings that are not like us. It can be a cat, a bird, a dog. It could be an insect, a bee, a cockroach, anything. It's just amazing. Like even today at work, there were 3 different situations at work. there was a walkway where everyone was walking through, and there was this tiny little snail, and he was about to get stepped on about 10 different times by 10 people, and it was a miracle that no one stepped on him. So, at some point I saw him, I picked him up and I put him somewhere else. Doesn't mean I saved his life, because, someone else might, he's probably going to come right back into that step and get crushed.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there was a little cockroach looking thing that was like on his back, and he looked dead. So I picked him up to throw him away, but he started shaking and moving. He was basically on his back, and he had given up because he couldn't get back on his feet. So I turned him around, and he was all happy, and he kind of started walking, and I left him go his way. And then about an hour later, I found him on his back again. But guess what? When I went to turn him back around, he had died. But, it's like, you just think about, like, if you think about it, that's a living thing. That's a soul. That's a soul. That's inside that little being, and you don't know what their soul's purpose is, or what they come from, or where they're going. But you can interact with it in a way that gives reverence to their soul being here right now at the same time that you're here. You can do that. And I feel like if we can do that, we would interact with all of life with more reverence, with more appreciation, And I think really cats and dogs, I mean, those are the main domestic animals. If you think about the main animals that are domesticated on this planet, it's cats and dogs. And I think more than anything, it's pretty obvious they're here to show us how to love. They're here to show humans how to love without condition.
And the other animal is also domesticated. There's a third one.
Oh, which one? A bird?
It's called a human.
Yes. That's very true. That is a very domesticated.
It's funny when you're saying respect for all life. This is a bit of a segue, because I'm a little bit concerned that we haven't talked about Teresa Mendoza yet in this podcast.
Well, we did in the last episode, Dave.
Because without talking about her, I did go to a spiritual fair on the weekend. A friend of mine said, "I'll come to the spiritual fair." And I came, and I was hanging out outside in the garden, and my friend came out, and two of her friends came out, and they were all like psychic readers in some way. They were all like doing tarot cards or something. And I don't know how, but I brought up Teresa Mendoza. God knows how it came into the conversation. And they said, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a really interesting show on Netflix, It's about this woman with a really kind heart, but also she's running a drug cartel." And they said, they all said, "Oh, we're not watching that. That's bad energy. Not watching that."
Yeah.
And I thought, I had a little reaction. I didn't try and defend it. I just let the conversation just move on,
Yeah.
But I was thinking, okay, so and you're looking at me like you know something, or you're going to say something. But I just think, if I was a bit assumptive or judgmental, I would say that when often you go to those so-called spiritual healing type things, they do tend to do things like to protect your energy, or deal with energy, or tell energy to go away, and things like that. So they have these categories of good and bad.
Yes.
So I really felt that, and then I felt to myself, okay, so why don't I have that watching like Narcos or Teresa Mendoza or The Godfather or whatever, because it's like, and all I could come to was like, because then I will not, how can I put it? It's going to sound like a bit of a leap, but it's like I went through a thought process, but the thought process came back to me, because I am actually seeing me when I look at, someone killing someone or drug cartel or something. you could say that's the dark side of life. But then I have that inside me.
We all do.
And we all do. But and if I can accept that and what I see around that, it's like life would be more integrated. So I think what I'm trying to say is that maybe years ago I would have agreed with that more, like good and bad, and I shouldn't do that. But now I seem to change from that. It's like, no, I want to face that stuff. I want to understand that stuff because it's in all of us. It's the whole. They might do it worse, like because they're killing people or I don't know. But I can still be I can be mean. I can have bad thoughts about people and things like that. So I'm not better in a way. I just do it differently. So it's a big topic, but it's like, that's what I came to. It's like, but then those people, those three friends in a way, who said, no, we don't watch that bad energy. It's like, that also is valid too.
Yeah.
Because I guess they're saying that they are not able to process that, or there's something in their structure, their energy structure, that says, I need to keep that away from me.
Yeah.
At this moment.
Yeah.
You know. And it's like, there's no forcing. There's no, you should watch this, be good for you, or something like that. No, I think. It's just the differences we have.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the main thing is to try, I'll say try, because it doesn't mean we have to do this, but I think if we can always try to not negate something, because by negating it, we are resisting or pushing it away. And you know how they always say, basically, if you push something away, it persists. What you resist persists. Because it's an equation of physics. They can show that in physics, actually, that what you resist will persist. What you push away will need to, it's like a pendulum. It'll go away, but then it'll bounce back, because that's the physics of life. It has to come back to you if you're negating it. And I feel like that's something that we as humans maybe have difficulty with, because you might just say, well, why wouldn't I negate something that's just so horrible or offensive, or people that are killing other people? And I don't, I want no part of that, because that's not who I am. And I don't believe in that. Okay, but if we are all one, if we're all wanting peace on this earth, and we understand that we are all one, we all come from one source of energy, right? Then isn't anything that anyone is doing an aspect of us? Isn't it an aspect of us if we're all one? So whether it's something you think that you would ever do or not, it still is an aspect of you. If you had maybe lived or been brought up in a different environment with different circumstances, you might be doing the same thing that other person is doing. So the only thing that separates us from each other, once again, is our story. It's not the color of our skin or the language we speak or where we were born. It's our story. And we know that we are one big story. Humans are one big story.
Wow, it's very profound what you're saying, because it means that everyone we meet, it's part of our story in a way. It's part of us. Because they're often the people, as you say, we want to push away.
Yeah. And again, we push away something, misunderstanding that it's an aspect of us. And if we could have some curiosity, it doesn't mean you have to stop everything you're doing and try to understand a person who's killing other people and murdering other people. That's not really what I'm saying. I hope it doesn't get taken to that extreme. But if you don't have a curiosity as to why that person is the way that they are, and you don't fundamentally understand the connection between you and them and you, then
Yeah.
we're really missing out on a big part of what this life is about, you know. And I, you know, I personally know many people who talk about compassion, who talk about having compassion for others, but I don't see them having a lot of curiosity about others who are doing things that are harmful in this world. There's not a lot of curiosity, and so it's really hard to have compassion for someone if you don't have the curiosity as to why they're doing what they're doing. It's really hard.
Can I give you an example
Yeah,
of this?
please.
And I'm not sure if we've talked about it on the previous podcast, but when I came back from Australia from China last year, like about August or something, I was living in this inside in the suburbs of Sydney, and when I went for my morning coffee, there was this guy sitting outside this supermarket on a bench, and he'd always say, "Any money for cigs? You know, any money for cigarettes?" He'd always ask for it, like he was begging. And he looked a bit strange, so I avoided him. I avoided him. I avoided him. I avoided him. And then one day, I thought, "Dave, why are you avoiding this?" You know? It's like, I actually just questioned myself, like curiosity about myself. Why are you avoiding this? So I sat down with him, and we started talking. And he looked like he was 60, but he was about 40, I think. And his name was George or something. We introduced each other, we talked for a while, and he did have a mental difficulty. But the reason was that I think he was working in construction, and he had an accident, and he got brain damage. So now he was like, his parents were looking after him, and he had nothing to do all day, so he'd go out and sort of... But the funny thing is, we talked for a while. We talked for about 15 minutes, I think. And then he looked at me, like quite intently, straight in my eyes. He said, "You don't have to give me any money," he said. I just wanted a chat.
Ah, that's nice. Yeah.
So it's interesting because, like, I do get a bit like apprehensive around people begging and things, but God, he taught me a good lesson, because maybe what we see on the surface is not what exactly is happening. You could say in the end, what all those people want, or what any human wants, is connection.
Yeah.
What any cat wants is connection.
Your cat, cats, I think cats are a species that we know very little of in terms of what they represent spiritually. I think they have a very profound meaning. I mean, the fact that they bring cats in hospitals, and that when someone's about to pass away, the cat will go to the person's room and lie on their bed right before they pass. That tells you a lot about a cat. And do you remember the cat that I lived with in Xi'an, in the apartment in China? I was keeping Yvonne's Bengal cat, the one that looks like a tiger. His name was Shushu.
Vaguely.
Shushu.
Shushu, yeah.
Ah,
Shushu.
so beautiful, this cat. Remember the tiger cat? Anyway, so I lived with someone who had that cat, right? And in the beginning, and I love animals so much, I was like, I'm not sure how I'm going to do because I have asthma. But I had been doing a lot of energy work in the years before that, and I thought, let me give it a try, It would be amazing if I didn't have allergies to cats anymore. So she was out a lot, so I would feed him and take care of him and all that. And I remember, and I had a lot of energies attacking me at that time, meaning at nighttime I would have a lot of energies that would keep me up. And yeah, I had a lot of, I'll just call them entities or energies. And I remember so often the cat would be in front of me and would look up right past my shoulder and would be hissing and really like fighting off these spirits that were right next to me. And one day he even lunged into space right next to my face and almost like scratched my face out because it lunged at something. And so if you think about it, if they're existing in another dimension, cats, it's pretty powerful because they probably are interacting with them and maybe protecting the owners, maybe dealing with a lot of energies that could be affecting the human who's keeping that cat. And they say that animals, cats and dogs, do absorb a lot of the energies from their owners, from their human owners. So, yeah, it's interesting, huh?
Well, one of my a previous relationship I had, there was my partner. She had taken in a stray cat. She loved cats. She'd taken in a stray cat. It was a great cat, beautiful cat. It's probably helped me change my mind about cats. And then it got like a limp in its back leg or something, a limp. And we took it to the vet, and they said, oh, maybe it's had a fall or, something like that. So it's okay, be all right, take it home. And then it didn't get better, took it back, and actually it had cancer. It had a really aggressive form of cancer. It was just eating away at its bones. And in 3 months it was dead. But it's very interesting because my partner had cancer. And she lived and the cat died. So I think...
Wow.
And we did study this quite a bit in China when we were there, that cats did often take the energy of the person they were looking after. They were like a guardian. And it's fascinating what you're saying, because I know that some people, like my girlfriend, she says that from her understanding, cats are guardians. Mm-hmm. They're protecting us.
Yeah.
And you can, once I had that in my mind, when I watch her cat, it's like she's often, just like you're describing with this cat in China, she's often close by me but looking out, mm-hmm. And looking past me. You can say, oh, why doesn't this cat want to look at me? Well, its job is not to look at you, its job is to protect you.
Exactly.
And it's looking out.
It's seeing everything else. Because I think they exist in a different dimension. I really do. I think they exist in this dimension, but they have access to another dimension because of what they're able, the spectrum of light that they are able to see with their eyes is way more expansive than the human eye.
I did read a bit about this, or study a bit about this recently. And some people say that with all these dimensions, they say that humans are in the third dimension. But some people say that animals are in the second dimension. But also, I didn't know this, like some thinking about some, what do you call it, like the elementals, the fairies, the goblins, even some of the angels, people say are in the second dimension. Mm. So maybe the cats are seeing the naughty or bad sort of so-called elementals that would attack you, where you walk down the street and you trip up for no reason, or an accident happens, you go, well, why did that happen? So maybe that their cats are in the same dimension as these, so they can just naturally see them, and we can't.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that.
And how beautiful they would feel that they'd want to protect us. It's like the bonding is is amazing. So maybe you need to get a cat, Marilyn.
Oh yeah, my God, the loyalty a dog has to its owner is just absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm still very, very allergic to them. I ended up, yeah, remember? She ended up having to move the cat to someone else's apartment because of that really bad asthma attack I finally had one day. Yeah, it was really sad. But, yeah.
Can I ask you about asthma? Because you had an asthma attack recently because I think you were looking after some dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you weren't wearing a mask or something. So I looked up asthma and I never realised it. It says what I read was it's an overreaction in the immune system. It's like a defence. It's like the immune system thinks it's being attacked and it overreacts or something.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going on, like, in a sort of more, I don't know, more, I don't want to say spiritual, but like in some, does that fit with your personality or something?
I don't know. I mean, I think that what the body has a reaction to is the dander. I'm not too sure. I guess the dander of
it's like the fluff is into the cat.
It's what's inside the skin in the saliva, also.
Oh no, dander. How interesting.
So I'm not completely sure. I mean, I personally feel that it's a karmic thing, asthma. It has to do with some things from past lives. I do feel that. And it's quite interesting that I love animals so much, but I have difficulty because if I, shove my face into their fur too much or play with them too much, I get sick. So it's interesting how that's been something I've had to deal with and work through. And yeah, I don't think I'll understand during this. I don't know. Maybe during this lifetime I'll be able to understand where that's coming from. So far, I don't. I've never done past life regressions. Maybe a past life regression would reveal what that story's about. Yeah. So we'll see. But
because as you say, you love cats and you love dogs.
Yeah,
wow.
So much.
And you get asthma and you can't be with
yeah.
them.
But yeah, I didn't always have it. So it started at a certain age, at a certain time, that was very emotional and difficult when I was younger. So there could have been like a trauma response that triggered it, that it activated it, maybe, also. But a very funny, interesting phenomenon. One of the reasons I also think it's karmic is I'll just tell it very quickly, and then I guess we'll go because this is we've been gone for a while, but. And I thought this was just my imagination. How children, sometimes we make up things and we turn it into a story and we think it's factual, but my mom actually remembers this really well. When I was younger and I started getting allergic reactions to cats, after we had cats for a while, but I started to have reactions. And the most interesting phenomena would happen. So the cat would lick me on my skin, and then I would start to have scratch marks all over my arms as if the cat had scratched me, but it had not touched me. It had just licked me somewhere on my body. And these scratches would appear as if like a past life memory was coming back up on my skin. And I've looked this up. Actually, it's a real thing. There are people that in certain situations, they have certain scars or markings that will show up on their skin that just come from a situation that kind of like it reawakens something, some memory that is in the body.
Manifest in their body.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
interesting.
So maybe cats and dogs are reawakening something in you.
Yeah, they could be. They definitely could be. They could be. So I'm going to keep searching for that. I'm trying to understand that because I think it's fascinating. And
Because if you did get a cat, I would probably never get to see you again because you'd just be with the cat all the time.
I'll be with the cat all the time. Oh yeah, because we get to see each other so much, Dave.
Well, we do thanks to Mr. Zoom and Mr. WhatsApp.
That's true. That's very true.
Connect the world. So
That's true.
thank you to them.
Thank you to them.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you need a Kleenex, Dave.
A Kleenex, yeah. Is that the same as a tissue? Yeah, I got a bit emotional today, which is pretty unlike me.
Oh yeah, totally. You're so unemotional. Oh my God. You're doing a lot better. You used to cry. A lot of things would make you cry. Yeah, it's changed. Okay. We're going to go. Thank you so much, everyone. If you got through this again, we congratulate you. We appreciate you. And
What are we going to give out as awards for getting through our podcast?
we're going to think about it. We'll think about it. We'll come up with something good.
Toodle pips.
Toodle pips. Toodle pips. Bye.
Bye.